Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I've got a video for you today on a handful of very simple sheaths. These are all going to different customers, so let me give those customers a... Sorry, I've got my desk is a real mess right now. Let me give those customers a quick shout out. So we have here going to Aaron. This is Kuma Takri. We'll get into all the specs on these in a second. This is a Mora Garberg. It's going to, well, the sheaths anyway. All the knives are mine. The sheaths are going, this one's going to a gentleman named Tim. And these are a pair of sheaths for the Cold Steel Urban Edge, I think this one's called. Yes, Urban Edge. And these are going to a gentleman named Albert. I believe I'm pronouncing your name correctly, sir. If I'm not, I beg your forgiveness. But that's what we're dealing with. So we got these 3 projects, 4 sheets. Let's start with the little guys first. This is obviously a push dagger. It is made by Cold Steel. The more popular ones, or better known, I should say anyway, are the Safe Makers, the 1 and 2, which I have created some vacuum form molds for, because I do both of those knives quite frequently. So I did have a jig that I had built for this one. It was basically like a piece of wood that was exactly the right thickness, so that when I carve out a shape that matches the handle, and when I laid the piece down, the back of the knife would sit flat on the wood, and the handle would come through and make contact with the table beneath it. So it kept everything nice and flat and level and sturdy, so it doesn't shift around or anything. It was really nice, and I have no idea what I did with it. The benefit of having something like that is you can vacuum form directly over the knife. So one of the reasons I think that's a good thing is because this is not a particularly good knife geometry to deal with in a traditional press, in my personal opinion. The reason I say that is because you have one side with a central ridge, it's contoured, and you have the other side perfectly flat. And then you also have this handle, which is tapered coming out, and it is symmetrical to the center, I believe the center line, or possibly to the cutting edge. I'm not 100% certain on, no, it's to the center line. It's symmetrical to the center line. So if I were to do this in a traditional way, I would put a hot piece of Kydex into the press, put the knife on it, put another hot piece of Kydex on it, and then I would shut the press and clamp it all down, create pressure while that Kydex cools off, and it'll take the shape of the knife. Well, that's great, except that the cutting edge is not the center of the knife. It's not. It's actually lower than center. So as that pressure is distributed, it's actually going to take this shape. The sheath is going to take the curve of the knife on top, and then when it hits that edge, it's actually going to lift back up this way. And it's kind of subtle. It's not extreme, but it's just noticeable. And I really don't like how that looks. It also slightly functions differently when you go to draw too. The retention on it doesn't quite feel right to me, because you have the center for the opening is higher than where the blade edge is. So you do have that issue. And all of this is just kind of a nerdy behind the scenes rant. If you guys are interested to find more stuff out about that, let me know, and I can maybe do a video on some of the more particular issues. But yeah, essentially a vacuum mold is always going to be the best solution. And so here is one example of a vacuum mold that I created for this, where I've basically just taken pieces and reconstructed the knife and handle area, added some retention blocking, and even added drill point indicators. And all you do is you put this over, well, yeah, this particular design is designed to be membraneless, meaning the Kydex, you can just drop the Kydex, the hot Kydex on top of it. As long as it's over a vacuum hole, it'll evacuate the air and cause it to take the shape of all the contours you see here. So this actually turned out really well, and I was able to make a couple sheaths. They do have a nice click in. Excellent retention, no rattle, no play. Nice smooth draw. Got a click going both directions. There is, if you manually try to shake it side to side, you can get it to happen, but it tends to want to sit pretty cleanly in there with no natural rattle of its own weight. Now, if you're looking at the sheath and wondering, well, why doesn't it have the shape of the top of the knife? Partly because that's how I built the vacuum mold for it. You can see a nice flat top to it like that. But the reason that I do that, the reason I choose to go with that route is because I want my vacuum mold to be versatile enough that in the future, if I decide to put, let's say, an ulti clip or something mounted to the center of this, I don't have to deal with having a flat piece balancing on this center point, which is almost certainly going to cause it to tilt in one direction or the other when I put pressure on it. Rather, instead, I've got a flat surface I can put something on top of, and I can form it and get perfect symmetry, get perfect definition, all that good stuff. So it just, to me, is a little bit preferable. So if you're wondering if this is really Kydex or if it's like Securex or something like that, no, this is Kydex. I did form this. This is not like a factory. It's super crisp looking, but that's because it's vacuum formed, which is something I try to do when and where possible. But I'm very happy with how this came out. I really like the feel of the draw. I really like the feel of the resheathing, and the retention is just about perfect in my opinion. So there you go. All right, so that is for Owlbear. I will have that in the mail for you today, brother. Moving over, we have a sheath for the Mora Garberg. Now, the Garberg, if you're not familiar, is, I think, Mora's only fixed blade still. They came out with it maybe 5 years ago or so. It could be longer ago than that. I was made aware of them about 5 years ago. Mora is just a wonderful company. They're Swedish. They make some very, very good knives for the price. My favorite Mora knife still is the Companion, which you can find at a ton of different online retailers and even in person at some sporting goods stores for under $20. You know, sometimes maybe slightly more than 20. But the Mora Companion, in my opinion, is their best blade for the price. It's very comfortable in hand. This is not a Mora Companion, just for the record, but I love Mora. I love the Companion. It's super budget friendly. It's a decent knife that outperforms some of my more expensive ones, like $150, $200 knives even. And the great thing about it is that it's easy to sharpen. It's cheap, so I can replace it if I break it. And it's just a great all-around knife to use out in the field. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Mora. The Garberg, I don't particularly like myself. It just doesn't work for my hand as well. I get tired really quickly trying to use it. But I can't deny having the full tang is obviously much better. And Mora, as a company, I like to support because they do make good products. So the Garberg is a difficult knife to put in Kydex, in my opinion, because it has this very symmetrical ovoid handle. And it's got a little bit of a Coke bottle shape to it. So you have two different contours that you have to contend with. Not only does the handle sweep outward this way, but it also sweeps outward this way. And not only that, but it happens on top as well as on bottom. So it's really three different things you have to contend with. And I found a solution to it a while ago that seems to be really tried and true. And I'm able to get just great retention on these without a ton of extra retention. So the typical thing is when you form a sheath on this knife, it tends to be stuck in there much more than you would actually want it to be. So my solution still seems to be working well. Pancake or taco, it works fine. In this case, we went with a pancake style sheath. The reason why pancake in this particular instance is superior is because of the carry setup. So customer asked me, Tim asked me if I could make this with a tech lock that pivots on it. So you have the ability to adjust between a vertical and a horizontal carry without having to dig out tools and take screws out. If you do need to do that, you're dealing with Phillips head screws, so it's the most universal, the most common. That said, it's really nice to be able to say, well, hey, I want to go from scout carry to vertical carry and just immediately change that angle and mount it on your hip and go. So there you go. This is ambidextrous as well, so you can take the plate off and you can remount the plate on the opposite side of the knife. It's very quick and easy to do. If you do that, one thing I'll tell you is you probably actually want to, instead of removing it and putting it on with the same side facing up, you actually probably want to do it this way. Remove it and then shift it over. So now you'd have the bottom of the tech lock facing upward. The reason I say that is because you can reorient the tech lock. You can remove it and reorient it and all that and get it to work. But it's better to just go upside down so that you don't have to change anything except the plate. These 4 screws, you take it off, you flip your knife over, you remount it like that, and you're good to go. And that's going to give you the same horizontal to vertical pivot range that you've got now, versus if you were to flip it around, you'd actually be exactly opposite. So you're not going to find the same convenient angles for the tech lock. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. But really like this sheath, came out really nice. Simple, but clean. And finally, for Aaron, we have a Kuma Takri. This is a very interesting knife designed by Johnny Wason, or Wason Johnny, sorry. Johnny Sai. He designed, I think, 3 knives for tops. The Kuma Takri that you're looking at, the Kuma Kage, and I can't recall the third. I'm pretty sure there's a third, though. But this is very interesting. It's reminiscent of Kukri, obviously, but it's also kind of tracker-ish because of how wide the blade gets here. You have a lot of things to contend with as a Kydex maker when you put this into a Kydex sheath. First thing is that when you just press a knife, you got to understand that anywhere where there's a space, where there's no metal, the Kydex wants to press together in those spaces. So now imagine you press a sheath and you've got all this space here. Well, when you go to try to draw your blade out, you're going to be hitting this, and you can maybe drag it through. I know some makers that make stuff like that. You're going to get wear marks all the way across your knife in a band that is the thickness of the spot it's dragging through. So in this case, you got a spot of probably a little more than an inch across the width of that you'd have a problem with. That's not good for your metal. It's not good for the sheath. It's just not good. It doesn't feel good to draw. It really doesn't feel good to resheath. And that's when the knife is clean. Now go use it. Get some dirt on it. Get some debris from wood, whatever you have on that. And now try to insert that. You're going to have grinding. You're going to have things getting stuck into the Kydex because of the pressure. It's just a bad situation that you don't want to have on your hands. So there are 2 basic solutions to a knife that has a weird shape like this, where the section toward the tip is actually wider than the section toward the handle. The one solution is what's called a broken back sheath, not a broke back sheath, a broken back sheath, in which the spine of the sheath is cut. So you would have the Kydex formed in around here, and maybe you'd have just a few eyelets up here toward the tip, but then the spine is actually open. So instead of drawing it straight out like this, you'd actually pop it upward and then draw it outward. And the reason you pop up is to avoid the collapsed section down here, and then you can draw out. Now, there are some inherent issues with broken back sheaths, one of which is that, well, you only have eyelets down here, or, well, along here, I should say. You have no eyelets up here. What does that do to the retention? If you were to take it and jiggle your sheath like this, chances are you're going to dislodge the knife out the top. Not necessarily even with a ton of pressure. And the reason why is because there's just nothing holding the Kydex together there. Also, if there's no knife in it, grab that sheath and just squeeze it, and you can pinch it together, no problem. It's flimsy. I just really personally dislike broken back sheaths. I think I've only ever made and sold one of them, and it was because I couldn't find any better solution for the particular knife that we were dealing with, and I don't remember what it was. Maybe somebody can help me out. I know a lot of you guys watch all my videos. If somebody recalls, or if you're the customer for that project and you want to comment down below and remind us, that'd be cool. I honestly just don't recall because I do them that infrequently. The other solution is to fill in this space with something that can withstand the pressure of Kydex, of the press process. So what I actually did with this was I removed the scales. I pinched it between 2 slabs of HDPE plastic, and I blocked off a section at the end and at the handle, and I filled that cavity up with resin. What I wound up with was this. It's a reusable hard piece of blocking that fits perfectly onto the blade. And, you know, I did have to obviously grind in the grind line, but you can see the grind line matches up with the line on the sheath, or on the knife, I mean, perfectly. And the result at the end of this is that you get a sheath that looks like it was formed on a knife that has no recess removed from this section. So it's very clean. It came out just about flawless as far as the blocking transition to just metal goes. I could barely feel it right around here, but it's not really visible, or it's at least not super noticeable. Now, where I do have eyelets up here and down here, it provides the sheath with the kind of spring that it needs to keep retention, solid retention on the knife, but let go of it and snap and give me that sort of classic Kydex click going in. Excellent retention. No rattle, no play. It's not jiggling around on me. And then with the draw, I have a ballistic retention on this. A ballistic one-handed draw. That is almost unheard of with a shape like this on a blade. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm just really pleased that I found a solution that works this well for this particular blade. So anyway, Aaron, I hope you really enjoy this. This came out really nicely in my opinion. The other reason why this solution with the eyelets on both sides is really quite good is because he also wanted a tech lock on a pivot plate. So you have the ability to wear this Scout, you have the ability to wear it vertical, and you can adjust between the two options without having to remove any hardware, without having to change anything out. It's just ready to go. Now this one, unlike the Garberg, this one does not have symmetrical eyelets. They are aligned vertically, but because of the shape, I've decided to go with an eyelet up here and, well, a mounting point up there. So long story short, it's not quite the same as with the Garberg. So I actually made a second plate that you can use if you ever decide to switch sides. You got a second plate that's ready to go. So just cannibalize all the hardware that you've got off this one and use the second plate, set it up the same way as a mirror image, and you'll be good to go. Thought I had one other thing to say, but maybe that was it. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you tuning in, but let me know what you think of these knives. Let me know what you think of these sheaths. Which one of these is your favorite and why? And what do you like about these companies? We got Tops, we got Mora, and we have Cold Steel. And are these your favorite knives in this size category? Why or why not? Let me know what you would carry instead of these. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking around for a longer than normal video. Well, I guess this is pretty much normal. Par for the course. I ramble. Sorry. And I hope you tune in for the next one. Like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless.